While pretty much every race for short course trucks provides memorable action, there's nothing quite like the World Cup. Crandon's crown jewel brings out the big names and the hopefuls. Tonight starts the on-track excitement as we get ready to watch the iRacing Short Course World Cup, and you'll see it all live here on Podium Esports. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and joining me in the booth is the voice of off-road, Dave Arnold, and Roush Racing driver, Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is Cameron Auberdon on social media, and our producer is Ryan Bauer, who's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Well, guys, I am absolutely looking forward to this one. We've had the Real World Cup just recently, and obviously, Dave, you were there for that one. I don't know about you guys, but seeing it, whether the real thing or the virtual thing, always just gives off awesome vibes.
Well, I agree there. Being there is second to none for sure. But iRacing has done such a great job. Literally, it feels like when I look at Crandon or any other track that they've scanned, it looks like you're still right there. It's mind-blowing. Every track corner, banner, everything. So you get that feel for sure.
No doubt. And speaking of the track, Joey, why don't we take a quick look at it here and tell us a little bit about what the drivers have to expect if they've never been to Crandon before.
Well, it is the big house for a reason. 8 turns, about 1.5 miles long, right here in Crandon, Wisconsin. Pretty much the home of off-road, and it kicks things off kind of funky. The start-finish line here in iRacing right after turn 4, Calamity Corner, but we're going to be using a land rush start when it comes to the actual racing here tonight. Feeds into turn 1, which is a long sweeping right-hander into some double whoop jump sections. Got to be really careful how you place the truck on the landing to get it turned into turn 2. Always an awesome point. Turn 3, known as the gravel pit, which feeds into Calamity Corner, and then another highlight here at Crandon. Turn 8, the hairpin. It's really easy to overcook it there into turn 8. You're going to see a lot of the competitors kind of use that exit banking as traction off of the corners, but in the Pro 2 trucks, careful, watch out. It's easy to overstep the limit.
Yep, and we'll get to see them race a little bit, but let's talk about the format for tonight, because this is a 2-day event. Now, this is more for qualifying tonight. We'll have the Pro 2 single truck qualifying. Everybody goes out, does 1 lap. Then they'll have a dash race. That is the top 8 qualifiers that will have to race to determine the finishing order of the qualifying for those top 8 positions. And then we'll repeat that process for the Pro 4s. They'll have their dash, and that will set the order for tomorrow night. So get ready for the racing once we finish up these single lap qualifyings, which will be starting momentarily. But finding that pace out there is going to be so important. And especially with them going one after another, something we always got to talk about, Dave, in dirt racing is the changing of the track. Is it going to be tough if you're not starting early to try and get a good qualifying position?
Yeah, that's so true. Is how much they, virtually water the track, or at least makes it a little slick there. It can get really dry slick also. And then when it comes to later on, the blue groove starts. Totally changes the conditions. You got 3 possibilities of what this track could be, change up to, but it also could change your entry point and your exit points and where that apex is. It really makes a difference.
First up, we're going to have Keenan Cusin out here. So he gets sort of a half of a warm-up lap. Everybody will get that, and then they'll get going past the start-finish line. That is where you will see them start the timing, and they'll have to try and rush around here as quickly as they can on that single lap. It's do or die. You cannot mess it up here to try and make it into that top 8, and then you'll decide who is on the ultimate pole for this one. So Houston now setting it up, and look at that, Joey, doing the typical thing, just trying to square off the exit.
That's exactly what he's doing, is he's getting the run here across the start-finish line to set up for that whoop section. It's so crucial that you nail the turn-in into these S's here. And something else to notice with these Pro 2 trucks, I wonder how fast that track is actually going to degrade, if it's going to be an advantage to run first or a little bit later, like when you guys said the groove is starting to come in.
He's one of those guys that I admire because somehow he finds time to both be a commentator, Keenan, and he does the racing side of things on iRacing virtually a fair bit. I don't know how he finds the time because I know I barely get out on the virtual track out here, but he does decently well. Let's see what his first lap is going to be. So far, it's looked decent here.
You can really see that corner when you're coming off there on the Potawatomi turn number 1 there, is you set up under that Red Bull banner. That it's kind of off camber, so it wants to throw that truck and really unsettles it. So it's really setting up the position. I think Joey said it best when you're coming in there in that flyway, setting up for that turn there by the barn.
So his timing line is coming back up here as he heads back into Calamity Corner, and they've already released the next truck, so it's going to be a quick run through, thankfully. And as he sets the first time, looks like it's going to be a 1:16.4 for him. Next up, going to be Trenton Briley. He's actually just coming across now, getting going and climbing up the hill through the S's.
This is impressive how they've got them stacked up down that back straightaway and just feeding them one into another. This is the second qualifier, like you mentioned. Trenton Briley coming up out of a crucial corner there, which feeds down this long straightaway into the hairpin. See how hard he really charges this Pro 2 truck into this and drives it so deep in there. I'm really impressed with how deep they can drive these Pro 2 trucks in and still have the rear end stick underneath them.
Absolutely, and as he comes up to Potawatomi turn 1, if I can get that one out, he'll flash by the barn trying to get the truck squared up now and into the tabletop as he swings around. Looks pretty decent to me, nice and tight into there. Just 2 more corners to go here, Dave.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing Joey was talking about is how they're setting up there. Pro 2s are really a different animal. So you don't have those front wheels pulling you around. So you're going to go a lot deeper in the corners. You're going to play up on the cushion a lot more. You can't really get down low and come in that apex really tight there usually, because you're going to either scrub the speed off or you're going to bring that rear end around on you. And you can see you got to tiptoe, and you can see that kind of threw him off a little bit.
Oh, but he's quicker by about 7/10 over Keenan Kusin. So up next, let's see who we've got coming around. Looks like Chi Cuba, who is just getting ready to start the lap. Nice timing. And on his way in the 06. So our current marker, a 1:15.2. Let's see if she can improve on that.
Yeah, coming over here into that slower turn 7 that I was mentioning just a minute ago. A little bit of over rotation there through the apex and on exit. That's really going to cost a lot of momentum in the straight line speed down the straightaway here.
That ever important Cowboys hairpin, trying to get it through there as quickly as possible. Slowest turn on the track. Looks pretty decent from there, and now you get back on the throttle, flying over the whoops towards that turn 1 flick all the way through up to about 95 miles an hour before it slows down ever so slightly, and now you got to get it woed up.
And you can see how slick that track is. That truck is really fighting for traction, and it's really fishtailing back and forth there. That's one of the things you talked about earlier about, do you want an early track or do you want a track that's more grooved in, a little blue groove for more traction? Well, these Pro 2s, you can see they're going to want to push. A lot of oversteer in these.
Yeah, just that rear wheel drive trying to get the rear of it forward, but not so much the front, especially when they try to turn into the corner. Last one around. Again, 1:15.7 is your marker, and it's a 22.0. Well off the pace, unfortunately, for Cheese. So she'll slot into what is currently 3rd, and Matthew Lind is the next up.
See what Matthew is able to do as he's already on that qualifying lap through this turn 7 here. It's a much better, cleaner run down the straightaway. I think I'm going to agree with you guys with the track state. I think I'd want somebody, or at least a handful of trucks, to come out here and really push things off of the racing line, get a little bit of that grip going, a little bit of that groove going at Crandon, and then that's when I want to be qualifying.
Another driver out here that's coming in with some real-world experience. In fact, has 2 championships in the TV Q&A track championship. So obviously he's got some chops, but can he back it up now and try to perform when he has only 1 try at trying to set a hot one? Flies off the jump down towards the braking, trying to open up the entry, swing it in. Little wide there, and can he get the power down? He definitely gets the speed, cuts off the exit. 1 more corner to go here, Dave.
Yeah, it looks like going off the Polaris flyway jump there. He's got a good middle line preferred. And I think that's a good spot to be in a Pro 2. You don't want to be too low, but you also don't want to be too high because you're going to lose time there. You got to get that middle preferred line.
16.8. That's about 4/10 off of Cusin. That's good enough for third. Cuba is pushed down to fourth. Briley still our fastest with that time there on the left-hand side of the screen. Cole Fisher, the next one out now, and getting it set up a little bit. Nope, we are actually through. Thought it maybe was in gravel pit there, but no, he's already on his way. Ooh, yeah, you keep talking about it, Joey. It looks like the track's so slippery out here. The littlest input, it is just all over the place.
I think you couple the slippery track or a green track, a slick track, whatever you want to call it, and maybe if you're just over the line a little or not quite on the racing line, it really destroys the speed that you can make out here in terms of your lap time. And I think we're seeing that from Cole Fisher. He's not quite perfect in terms of his turn in and apex points, and he's just really kind of having to drive the truck all over the place. As you see the tail, it just doesn't want to cooperate.
Cole comes in from the two-wheel world as he's raced dirt bikes, but also has done a little bit of UTVs. But as he comes off of the tabletop, it does look a little bit unsteady. Not sure if this is going to be a quick one. A little bit of corrections coming through gravel pit, and boy, it did not want to go off the corner.
Yeah, that truck is really fishtailing a lot. I think we saw that earlier where the young lady was going. It just seems in that straightaway, you got to have a little bit lighter touch. It's like they're trying to muscle the truck. You got to be real fluid because they're going to flip around, and that's a good example right there when they came around through that corner. Just see how slick it was through Calamity Corner there.
Connor Berry, multi-time champion here on the online dirt world, but also has raced plenty in the real world in these trucks. He's currently trying to see if he can dominate here as well, as Fisher was into fourth with his 1:19.6. But we are seeing a little bit tighter up in the top three currently. So can he get down to that 1:15, maybe towards a 1:14 mark?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things, too, you just talked about. Sorry, Joe, I just wanted to say, if you watch Connor, he's staying in that middle line, he's going to slide it out there a little bit more because he's using that slick track to his advantage.
I was going to exactly say that exact point here, and Connor has so much speed. If you're looking for a driver to emulate the line and exactly the inputs that you want to do, where you want to be running, depending on when the track is in terms of its state, watch this driver right here.
That looks pretty clean. And coming off the corner, yeah, a lot smoother than what we saw out of Cole. Lands it off the final jump, tucks it down into the bottom, right to the bottom there on the entry into Calamity Corner. He'll cross. It's a 15.2. That's our new time to match for everybody. He's about 0.5 of a second ahead of Briley.
Yeah, that was a good run by Connor, and you can see he's not sawing the wheel too much. He's letting the truck float a little bit, but he's not trying to overcorrect it, and that's when you get a lot of that fishtailing going. You gotta be smooth. Oh, Dane Culver, good to see that young man out there. Knuckles up.
Culver coming in from kart racing, mod kart racing as well. And oh wow, he went off the screen there. He went way close to the wall on the outside. Didn't actually hit it, but that can't have been a fast line.
If you drive it too deep into that hairpin there, you can actually kind of fall off of that naturally built camber on the exit and also over-rotate the truck. And I think Dane Culver kind of flirted with the limit there.
Looking a little better on the second half of the lap, but that's not going to help his cause, unfortunately. In the middle, coming through the corner, so up and through gravel pits, taking a bit of a wider run, but cuts back down across on the tighter exit, straightens it out as much as he can on the lead up into Calamity Corner, and finally across the timing line. Where is this going to put him? A 16.8. That will slot him into fifth position, just ahead of Cole and behind Lind.
Yeah, that's a good run there. And you can see, he comes to the mod carts like you mentioned there. That's like, power to weight ratio. It's like driving a Pro 2. So the kid, kind of knows, but I think it's lack of experience on a wet track in Crandon. You got to run a lot of laps here, whether it's in the real world or virtual world, to get that feel. And it's kind of hard. Joey will attest to this. You got, the old saying, drive by the seat of your pants. You can feel when that vehicle's going to slide a little bit. You know when to correct it, when to back off on the throttle, and when to give it throttle.
Another pretty much carbon copy what we saw from Culver there coming through Cowboy's hairpin. Just slid a little too far and almost came to a halt on the outside of the turn. See, now heads through Potawatomi turn 1 and gets ready to set up past the barn here. Not sure this is going to be a great lap, but probably comparable to Dane's.
I think the reason why we're pulling out those slight over corrections or over rotations is in these Pro 2 trucks, it costs such a huge amount of time in your lap if you have those corrections. It's not like the Pro 4s we're going to see later where they can really just stand on the gas and count on all 4 of those tires to pull them out of those situations. And like we've been saying, smooth is fast here in the Pro 2s.
And that was a little bit faster. It was in the 117, so Grady now moves to 6 himself as Minder's trying to figure out what's going on with his headshot here. It looks like his racing helmet is on.
That's exactly what it is. That might be right after he ran Crandon, because that's what all the helmets look like if you're in the back. You're in the front, you look clean.
Well, Zane Minder is on his way now. We see, and here we go. Yeah, racing recently. Looks like, and the California 300 taking victory and spraying the champagne.
Yeah, which is actually coming up again. That's from last year's shot, and he's got another chance here in, I believe, in a month or a couple weeks, actually.
Yeah, so a lot of stuff happening for the off-road world recently, but Chaden going to see if he can at least get himself in the top 5 right now. If you get under a 117, you're probably going to be in the top 6. Right now, Connor Berry's mark of 115.2 has about half a second margin over everybody else, which is pretty healthy, especially on a track as short as this at only 1:15 around here. Everybody trying to take that line, cutting back to the inside of Gravel Pit on the exit. Wasn't as close to the grass on the inside. Will he pay for the bit about foot off that he was?
He slides right through the middle of the track through Calamity Corner, a 116.7. Gonna put him up inside the top 5 into 4th place right there. And I was noticing Minder was really kind of just letting the car float, which is really what you want to do in these Pro 2s. You don't want to grip the wheel so tight. You kind of got to let it do its thing out there.
So now we've got Cody Winiecki, and he's got a fantastic setup. I'm honestly very jealous of this. He's got our broadcast up on the top. I don't know how drivers manage that. That'd be too distracting for me, frankly. But he's got a very lovely 3-screen setup for this.
Oh yeah, it's a nice setup, I gotta admit. But Joey hit it just right there. You got it's literally fingertips. You don't want the death grip. You know, you never want to death grip a racing wheel, period. But when it comes to that Pro 2, it's lighter's better, fluid is the whole thing. And I think with Minder had the same deal going on. He was very fluid on there. You see with Nicky right now, he's trying to do the same thing. He's not getting a lot of wiggle waggle or fishtailing going on. And you see that? Smooth as fast.
It's looking really good for the 903 right now. And I mean, Joey, I don't know how drivers do it. I mean, you might have figured it out since you get to be in the real thing, but in the sim, I'm always white knuckling. I cannot figure out how not to grip the wheel.
Well, it's tough. It's different in the real world versus the direct feedback that you have in the sim, and just kind of how everything responds. So I feel like in the real world, you can kind of handle it a little bit better, as Cody Winiecki does a 115.7, puts himself 3rd on the board right now. But I feel like in the sim, you also don't have quite as much of the counter steer effort. Like, you have to actually drive the thing a little bit more in the virtual world than you kind of do in the real world.
So yeah, like you said, 3rd place for Winiecki. So Kirchmeier's already across the line and heading down the backstretch towards Cowboy Hairpin. And another driver that comes from racing dirt bikes as well and UTVs. Let's see if he can keep off that wall a little better. Still a bit of a snap there coming off of it. That didn't look terribly smooth. Let's hope that Beard can find maybe a bit better of a run at the end here.
But he's got some good lines. Yeah, Beard power, there you go. Nice line coming out of that Forest County Potawatomi turn number 1. Now this is always the fun one. See those trucks, how they just get unsettled there coming around, setting up for that going under the Ponzi sign there. And you can see Skybox right there. It's a great seat in the house, by the way, sitting there. But it's all about the line selection right now. And I think the track is actually starting to drive out a little bit. I'm not seeing as much sliding right now.
Yeah,
starting to come to him.
imagine with having had 10 trucks across it, they're starting to feel that line dry up at least a little bit, as well as the sun pounding down on it. Kirchmeier is going to get a 17.7, a little bit off the pace, good enough for 8th position and about 2.5 seconds off the current pole time. Dashilette now, he's the next one up. Another of our good drivers that races in the regional and national series on the iRacing short course series.
This one is going to be another heater, I feel, from the driver, the number 23. Nicholas is always fast. I'm actually seeing quite a few names still to come here that might give a run for the money at Connor Berry on top here as we watch Dashilette drive it into the hairpin. Actually gets a really good run off here through the whoops of the front straightaway. Let's see how he puts the rest of this one together.
Yeah, not only does he race in the iRacing Short Course Series, which is a private league, but the iRacing Short Course World Championship as well, has qualified for that twice in a row. That is a difficult one to get into. 23 driver knows what he's doing, but what's he going to have for Connor Berry, Trenton Briley, Cody Winiecki up there, our top 3 currently. Right now, Kirchmeier on that cut line in 8th for the dash later on. We haven't been touching on that recently. Drivers want to try and get in at least in those top 8 for a chance at the pole. Here it is, last corner through Calamity and across the line. And that is going to put him at a 1:16.2. That's excellent. That'll be 4th.
Well, one thing for sure, and I know they're using General tires and those things are looking good right now for sure. The traction is really coming. I mean, it is noticeable, guys. Really seeing from the first 3 trucks that really ran to now you're seeing hookup. And that's what the whole thing is about. Getting the hookup, a little too much hookup there, but you could actually start to see a little blue groove starting to lay down. Starting to lay a little rubber.
It says that he is a super stock champion. I'm not familiar with that, Dave. What is that like?
Super stock, well, it depends on what an off-road. It could be more like a like some of the Rangers, and I know they have the full-size trucks that they run. They'll run them in what they call the sportsman classes. Out in Crandon, I know they have the Midwest Off-Road Racing Series more that they do, and they run the super stocks, and it's it's good old kind of before the Pro 2s and Pro 4s came around.
Interesting. So might have a bit of experience that's at least relevant here. He's running the 873 down in the gravel pit. Just 2 more corners to go. And Dane Culver now, the one that is on the cut line in 8th place at a 16.8. So there's your marker that he needs to try and be underneath here if he wants to be in the dash for the Pro 2s. Oh, but he messes up the last corner in a big way. So it's not a good time at all. It's a 19.7, unfortunately.
Calamity Corner just strikes again as Greg Johnson gets rolling. And I wanted to talk a little bit more about that track state coupled with this open setup that we have. It's a tricky kind of chess game that these drivers are having to play of if they're qualifying early, if they're qualifying late, depending on what the track state is going to be and how they are going to tune their truck based on how slippery it is.
Now, here's an interesting stat for Greg Johnson, who is our car on screen qualifying here, Joey. He has apparently 249 wins in official racing on the dirt road side of iRacing. I'm pretty sure even with, definitely more than, I think, 1,000 starts in my 13 years on iRacing, I have something like 50 wins out of everything. 249?
Yeah, that's impressive. I'm kind of there with you. I don't get to actually race a ton on the sim, especially in the officials, and I think I can count on my hand how many wins I've got.
Yeah, it's nothing like this. That's a massive number. So I haven't heard of Greg Johnson. I'm not sure how he's going to fare, but this will give us an inkling, and that number is definitely looking pretty good. So as he comes around Calamity Corner, that's much, much smoother. He'll cross the line, hit a 15.9. That's excellent. He is the 4th driver to cross that 1:16 mark, so he'll go to P4.
Yeah, I can see Culver's actually gotten pushed out there. Lynn, Mender, Kusin, Dashilette, Johnson, Winiecki, Briley, and Berry are still within striking distance. But kind of interesting seeing Winkler right now. Good line choices. But the biggest thing that's sticking out of my mind is we talked about is the setup too. setting up a wet track. In normal real life, when we do this, they run DOT, which are Department of Transportation tires, but they still groove them, depending on whether the track's going to be wet, dry, or whatever. But when it comes to this, I think the setup and suspension is going to come down to it too. How on a wet track, you don't want to get you don't want it to be too stiff, because that's when you're going to start slipping out a little bit. You want a little roll to the body.
Sean Winkler, a driver who dabbles in the rallycross side of dirt off-road here on iRacing as well, so making sure to get into the smaller cars, but very similar to this, just with a few different types of surfaces involved. Should be pretty comfortable here on the dirt. Now the marker is at a 1:16.846. It's very tight between Lind and Culver, less than a tenth of a second on that cutoff line that you see on the yellow there across the bar at the screen. 1:15.9, that's definitely going to be within the top 8. Sean Winkler now bumps Greg Johnson down to 5th as he takes P4, and we switch over to Josh Edmondson.
Josh using the virtual reality, just like what we saw in the previous driver, and setting up here on the start-finish line, making sure he gets the truck all the way over driver's right to really nail that turn in that apex into this S section here. Josh is usually one of the fastest drivers, and I think with the handful of drivers that we have left, guys, I think you're going to have to be in a 1:15 lap time in order to advance.
Josh, one of those black stripes, racing also in the iRacing World Championship off-road here, Dave.
Yep. Yeah, he's got a lot of experience. I know he came from the two-wheeled war. He's a motocross racer. Read the dirt. That's what I think my motocross guys have always translated really well into the dirt, because you have to look ahead quite a bit when you're riding motocross. Well, when you're going this fast, you got to have your vision way out there, especially with wet starting to form, and you don't want to get in those and, bicycle the truck around. Even though he likes going on two wheels, you don't want to in this.
Josh is in rare company with an over 10,000 I rating on his dirt class, so he's that's extremely hefty. I'm expecting high things from him here in qualifying, knowing that as he comes around the last corner, might be competing with Barry for that pole time. 15.134. He smashes it.
What a heater from Josh Edmondson, the new carrot to chase. A 15.1, and with drivers such as Christy King, Keaton Swain, Mason Prater still to go. Like I said, I think you're going to have to turn a 15 in order to advance.
I think you're right. It seems like that's becoming the new marker out there. In fact, 16th place is the lowest 1:15, or 6th place, Greg Johnson in his 1:15.6. But everybody is chasing Edmondson. Keaton Swain on the course, coming down into Cowboys, hairpin, and a little bit wide out there, but looking very, very smooth. Really look at the truck as it squats coming off the corner, getting that throttle down.
Yeah, that's a big thing with the suspension setup there, is transferring. If you got that two different suspension, you're gonna get a lot of wheel spin. You want that truck to squat. You want it to get down and feel the traction. And Keaton's been doing a lot of sprint car stuff, so he's got a lot of experience running on the dirt in real life, as well as racing pro lights. He's come from the mod kart world. I mean, this guy has a lot of dirt experience for sure.
Sprint cars are no joke.
Yeah.
Those things, it takes a set of attachments to hop into one of those. So Keaton coming around as he crosses the line. 15.0. That is now going to be your new fastest lap. He has beat both Edmondson and Barry.
Man, it just continues to get faster. I think the track is also playing into that, and not only do we have some really fast drivers at the end of qualifying here, but I think the track is starting to speed up as well, as we got Christy King coming around turn 7 here, blast down the straightaway towards the hairpin.
Absolutely, and the stat that I've got for her that I found interesting, and I had no idea, apparently she's the first woman driver to compete in any iRacing World Championship competition. Oh, she's a little loose though, coming through Cowboys hairpin. So she's been wading into uncharted territory and really setting the bar.
Yeah, I watched this young lady the last couple of years, as well as you have, Joe, too. And it's great to see how she's advanced from the regionals to the nationals, and she is getting really quick. She's actually one of the runners that could be for a podium. You never know with this young lady. She makes it, puts it all together. She's fast.
Gonna have to overcome that little bit of a hiccup there through the hairpin. Everything else has looked pretty decent, though. Nice and smooth out of gravel pit. Let's see where this places her. Right now, better than a 16.276 will get you into the dash for the Pro 2s. Is this going to be enough? Across the line, 16.8. It's just shy.
Yeah, puts her P12 on the board. It just, you look at how close all of these times are. I feel like just a couple tenths can leapfrog you up, but we are looking for the top 8 only to advance into that dash race.
Everybody else will start where they qualify for the big races tomorrow, and we'll have a couple of them, so don't worry, there'll be plenty to go over. Right now, Prater heading around to see if he can now sneak into that top 8 marker as he swings into what has really been the Achilles heel of a few drivers, but that looks pretty good. 50 kept it under control.
Yeah, Mason, he had a rough year last year. I mean, I expected him to be more of a front runner. He was always up there battling. He seemed to tangle up with a few people, as I, seen in the past. And that has a lot to do with in the racing. But when it comes down at one-on-one, he's always been a great qualifier. And that's one thing about this young kid. I mean, Swain, not surprised, Edmondson, Barry, Trenton Briley, and Mason Prater. Those are ones to really keep an eye on there. Winkler and Johnson Dachelette, though, it's going to be close to see if he's going to knock one of them down. He's just got to stay smooth.
So Prater is the last to qualify. Looks like Irvin won't be out there. And also we're getting an indication that Swain might have his lap under review here as he went outside what is considered the boundaries of the track. Prater, he is just short by 0.04 of a second of the top 8. If Swain gets a penalty, though, that will bump Prater up into the dash.
I'd be curious how they review that. I know you can't be taking any of the grass lines here at Crandon, so I think that's kind of what's under review with Keaton Swain's lap.
Yeah, so yes, it's all off-road out there, but they want them to stay on the dirt and not be shifting out onto the grass here, and maybe trying to abuse a few things that you can do in the sim that not necessarily can do over in real life. But they're advancing the session, and it does look like Swain is still on the pole. I haven't seen him get an end-of-line penalty or anything.
I know they're reviewing it. The other thing that I wanted to point out was that lap from Christy King. I know it was a 1:16.8, but that was a huge mistake in the hairpin. It's only a what if, what could have happened if she hadn't made that little mistake.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right that she would have been up there. But there's always a lot of ifs in racing, and we do see trucks starting to line up, including Swain, for the Land Rush start. And Dave, this is one of the fantastic features of this track, is the way they start races.
Yeah, we don't do this anywhere else. I mean, that's one thing that's so special about Crandon there. The steel of the starting line is iconic over the years. And one of the things that's really missed, and I notice it every time, is what we talk about, Cowboy's hairpin. Well, Cowboy was the starter, and he used to run across and look at and point at each one of those drivers, make sure they were ready. So that is part of the iconicity of Crandon, is they've named that after him, but the Land Rush. Nothing more exciting when you see, I saw numbers in the Cup race this year when the Pro 2 versus Pro 4, we had 26 of them at 100 miles an hour through turn number 1, all biting for that top spot. Talk about insane. Nothing in motorsports matches the Land Rush.
Can only imagine standing at the end of that straightaway, watching them all charging towards you. But it looks like they're all 8 gridded up, so we are good to go. We should see the lights come up here shortly. Who will dash across to that dirt racing line as well to maybe gain a little bit more grip here at the start? We saw in the Majors World Cup earlier this week that some drivers were certainly trying to take advantage of that. Looks like they've been given the signal that the sequence is going to be starting in just a couple seconds. And there it is. Green flag is out as they take off. And it looks like that outside truck is starting to weave towards the dirt line to try and get a little bit of an extra run. The 720 of Winkler might get the whole shot here. It all depends as they come into Potawatomi turn 1. He's just ahead of Swain.
And off into the whoops, the jumping turn number 2 right now. Winkler leads the way. It's Keaton Swain in that white truck. Nicholas Dashlet in third, Dave.
Yeah, definitely. You know, Joey, it's a good point you made there is on that outside line we were talking about. Not always the fastest line, but boy, these guys made it really work. Sometimes these guys get pinched off on the inside. Look at this, 3 wide through that turn there through the gravel pit. Insane. And then they hit the big jump here. Players fly away.
Winkler starting from 6th position and now has that precious clean air in front of him over all 7 trucks trying to chase him down. Remember, this will set the start order for tomorrow's race. A problem for Dashlet, who clipped the inside wall. That gives up the spot to Edmondson, Joey.
Oh, and he just really slipped right by Dashlet. An excellent move by Edmondson. Now we're side by side. Winkler gets a poor run out of turn 7. Keaton Swain on driver's left. He's going to send it deep into the hairpin. It's all about the exit, though.
Oh, looks like he's going to be able to hold him back. He gets a clean run off the corner. Winkler couldn't really get the power down. They've still got Edmondson with them. Top 3 starting to break away, Dave.
Well, that was a smart move by Swain. When Swain, you know, kind of pushed Winkler out just a little bit too much, and that had him get on the binders a little earlier. That's why Keaton was able to take that preferred line. And Edmondson's right there now. Look at this battle. Right in 2nd place.
Over-under move, and that gets him to P2. So that's going to move Winkler back down a little bit, but still that start has got him well above where he began on the starting grid. I'd say it's a net gain for him if he can just hold on from here. They'll come through Calamity Corner. This is a very, very short race. They're finishing lap 1 officially right now, on to lap 2 of 3.
Joe, I'd say I've been impressed with Keaton Swain always. Just his raw speed, especially in qualifying, was extremely impressive. But Josh Edmondson is the one who is drawing my eye here in this 3-lap race. He has made multiple passes to get up here and chase down the leader.
And Dashlet's actually up 4 as well, so he's not had a bad race here. As they come into Cowboys hairpin once again, trying to get the throttle down as quickly as they can. Swain's going to stay safe and hold on to the lead. Now we hop on board with Connor Berry. Surprisingly low, but he is in good competition here. Usually we see him run away with everything, Dave.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Connor's always been so fast. So many championships, a lot of real-world experience here. But one of the big things about here in Crandon, it's hard to pass. You got to pick the corners. We've seen it through the gravel pit. We've seen it, you know, sometimes out of, you know, Calamity Corner, very rarely. But Cowboys hairpin, that's where you got to really set it up and get that position. You have to establish. Sometimes, you know, they say in the motocross world, get those elbows about 10 feet wide.
Well, let's see if the truck's elbows are extended out here as Edmondson is trying to look on Swain. Can't quite get close enough. White flag is out. It's the last lap now. Winkler's starting to drop back, but he's still safely in 3rd as long as he keeps good pace over Dashlet, who's actually probably more worried about the truck behind. You'll catch flashes of him in the background in a hurried fight for that 4th position with Connor Berry. But what can Edmondson do here? Half a lap to go.
Takes a little bit of a shallower line as we watch Connor Berry also dive down into the hairpin, but actually Keaton Swain was able to put the power down quite nicely coming out there, so he's about an arm's length gap back to Josh.
That was Dashlet, who was onto the embankment there coming into Cowboys Corner, but he held it together. Unfortunately, Berry did get him, though. Just a couple more turns to go. Swain still has immense pressure behind him. Edmondson knows that he wants that top spot, that hole shot down to the inside here. Can he snatch it away at the last go of it? Doesn't get a slide job, although he leans on him just a little bit. Now one more turn back to the right-hand side. Will he push him out of the way, or will he keep it clean here as they come into Calamity Corner? He's not even close enough to him to push him out of the way. Swain gets the win. Edmondson will finish 2nd, and Winkler with a great run to 3rd. But, did Dashlet get turned? He did.
Yes. Oh, horrible. that was not where he wanted to be, and that's going to be a rough one, being the last one, getting that start going in the Cup race. But I'll tell you, very smart driving by Keaton Swain, where he got down, got the nose on the K-rail, he protected it.
Oh, utter disappointment for Nicholas there at the very end. And so there is your results here for the Dash, which will set your top 8 qualifiers. Swain taking the win with Edmondson in second. Sean Winkler will survive for third. Connor Berry at least gets himself into fourth, although he qualified third. I know he won't be happy with that. Cody Woniecki will finish fifth, and Trenton Briley sixth. Nicholas Dashley wound up shuffling all the way back down to seventh. Remember, he started eighth and had a very good fifth place finish on his hands, but he finishes seventh as Greg Johnson will wind up in the eighth position there. Let's see if we're going to be chatting with drivers here in a moment, because it looks like we've got our top 3 ready to talk to us, including Keaton Swain with the win here today, starting from the pole. But you didn't get to the first corner first there, Keaton. Were you at all concerned when you saw Sean in front of you?
The land rushes here, make things interesting, especially in the Pro 2s. It's really hard to get the grip, but I knew when I came out second behind Sean, I would still have a good chance to, have a chance at getting the win here. So overall, it was a good race. Pretty close race in there with me and Josh, but I can't complain about starting this event off with a win.
Absolutely. And let's talk about that battle there with Josh, because coming up to the finish, it looks like he was trying to lean on you a little bit, but it seemed clean and fair from our perspective. How'd you feel about that battle?
Yeah, Josh is really clean. I knew he was probably trying to just rub my left rear, right rear quarter just a little bit just to get me loosened up so he can get a good drive out. But luckily I was able to hold him off there to take the win. But yeah, Josh is a clean racer. I knew he wasn't going to do anything too crazy, especially in a short race like this.
How important, though, is this pole for the Pro 2 final race tomorrow? Do you think that one's going to be key to having a chance at the win for that?
Yeah, definitely. The first starting spot for the Pro 2 is definitely good. There's a couple other good ones, but I'd say out of the top 4 starting positions, being P1 is good unless you're on the far outside. So definitely, I think there's an invert. So depending on what that is, might push us back a little bit, but hopefully not too much. But I wouldn't be mad about starting on the pole, that's for sure.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, I had forgotten we have that invert to worry about. But congratulations on the Dash win, and can't wait to see it tomorrow.
Sounds good. Thank you.
That's Keaton Swain, winner in the Dash. And I believe Dave Arnold has caught up with the man who is trying to chase him down, Josh Edmondson.
Josh, how's it going, my friend?
Hey, Dave. How are you?
Good, good. Well, one of the things that came to my mind was that start and watching how you're running it there. Dashlett had some issues, scraped a little along the wall, but you had to get by him and Winkler. Now, that was interesting.
Yeah. I had to make some quick moves. Only a 3-lap dash. You can't afford to wait. And especially when I saw Keaton ahead of me, he's really fast in these things. So I knew I had to make moves right away if I wanted to try and beat him. And just didn't quite have enough time or the capability to get around Keaton. He didn't make any mistakes. So happy with the P2 though.
Things I was also noticing too is, setting up going into Cowboys hairpin there, you're trying to get that under there. It looks like Keaton was just kind of pushing you out, just trying not to give you that inside line.
Oh yeah. He's wily. He's been around. We've raced each other so much, he knows what moves I'm going to try to make. And it was one of those things where I either go for a really crazy slider and try and make it happen, but something could go wrong there too. And starting P2 tomorrow isn't bad. So I think, also being a little safe there was smart and not taking either of us out of it at all. So.
Yeah, and what was going through your mind when you're looking the inside him and going through the gravel pit? That's one thing, just trying to lean on him a little bit, just trying to unsettle him, but not try to turn him around.
Yeah, I wanted to be close enough to try and throw a slider, but I wasn't. So I wanted to just try and get next to him, give him a little bump of the door. Maybe he slows momentum down so he didn't have such a gap going into the last corner and just try and make a move there. But again, he knew it. He left me in just enough room to just give him a little door, and it didn't affect him. And he had the inside going into the final corner and controlled it. So yeah, good racing all around.
Well, congratulations on going into tomorrow's race, P2.
Yep.
Josh
Thank you.
Edmondson.
Yep. Thanks, Dave.
That's going to take us to third place finisher. Joey has caught up with Sean Winkler, who definitely used his good start to great advantage.
Yeah, Sean, you got to be happy with the third place finish here, especially grabbing the hole shot off of that start.
I couldn't believe I got a whole shot, and you know what? I'm happy being a third place guy. That's quite all right. I get to talk to you fine fellows.
Well, yeah, it's great to have you here in the interview room. So what did you learn from the Pro 2 this three-lap dash race?
I don't think I learned anything. I can't believe that all just happened. I've been driving these a little more lately than I'm used to, and just trying to get really consistent with the truck and get the balance out there just right. And so I don't know if you can put together some clean laps. Apparently you can do okay. So I'm happy with where I finished, especially given the level of competition out there. It's really strong. There's a heck of a lot of great drivers out there. So I'm thankful to be right here.
Now, obviously Keaton and Josh were able to get by you. Were you worried about, I noticed down in the hairpin on that last lap, Connor and Nicholas were getting into it on the inside. Did you catch that out of the side of your eye?
I did, yeah. So, you got VR, so you can kind of look around a little bit. I know, Keaton and Josh, they're next level drivers. Those guys are so crazy fast that, I just try to get on their coattails there. So once I was in that third place, I could just kind of run clean. And then I know Connor and Nicholas, they're going to battle each other a little bit, and maybe that slows them down a bit and lets me kind of keep that gap. So just a little bit of luck out there and a little bit of strategy.
Well, awesome job in that dash race. Coming home today, third, Sean.
Yeah. I'd like to thank Racecraft Academy, Nitro Circus, NLR, Apex Gaming PC, Josh, Connor, Teal, all the guys I race with, you guys for putting on a broadcast, and a happy belated birthday to my friend Kenny. I owed him a birthday. Hello, so happy birthday to Kenny. Thanks, guys.
Well, Joe, that was Sean Winkler, third place finisher here today in the dash race.
Got to get the shout outs to friends, but we're not done. Let's not forget that we've got more action coming up. Before we get to it, though, let's talk about what we saw there. It's going to be a little bit of a different beast, Dave, but what do you think the Pro 4 guys need to take out of what they just witnessed?
One of the things, too, is the track conditions. What it's going to come down to, is it going to be a little slick when they first start? Which you have more of an advantage in the Pro 4s because you're going to be able to get down. You're going to be able to run that thing right along the wall and right down inside. These things have different lines. We saw the Pro 2s. They wanted to step out a little bit and kind of get them to rotate. Well, they're just going to give them a little flick, and those rotation and those Pro 4s are going to pull them out of the turns a lot quicker. But it will come down to track conditions.
And Joey, we saw it was only 3 laps, and yet we had quite a few passes out there. I'd say that's a good sign.
I think it's going to get even busier with the Pro 4s. You can tend to be a little bit more aggressive, like Dave was saying, with how you drive them. So 3 laps is short. You kind of have to start with the aggression level up, and then you have the confidence inside the truck to kind of put it where you don't usually put it. Yeah, I think those elbows will get 10 feet wide here in this race.
No doubt about that. Well, like we said, more action is coming up. We're going to take a short break first, but stick around because the Pro 4 qualifying is on its way.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the iRacing Short Course World Cup, and now it's time for the Pro 4s to qualify. But obviously, we just watched the Pro 2s have their qualifying and their dash race setting the grid, and we head off to these guys now. For those that aren't familiar, Dave, we've got the Pro 4 qualifying list up here, the format list up here. Obviously, it'll be a single lap for everybody, and then the top 8 will go to the dash. But for those who don't know what we're talking about when we mention Pro 2, Pro 4, what's the difference between the trucks? Because they look pretty similar.
Well, Pro 2s, you know, they're just two-wheel drive. That's what it really comes down to. The Pro 4s, four-wheel drive all the time. But let me think about the Pro 4s that is different than any other when you think four-wheel drive. These things actually disengage. When you let off the throttle, it's going to disengage that front end and allows that rear end to rotate around. As soon as you get back on that throttle, the front diff re-engages and it pulls you out of the corner. So have these guys jumping from a Pro 2 to a Pro 4, it's a whole other animal. And it has to be a whole other driving style. It just doesn't drive the same.
Yeah, it really doesn't. But we heard Joey talking about how they're going to be able to definitely get the throttle down a lot easier and just try and power out of these corners. So I imagine it's going to look very different, as Cole Fisher's going to be the first one up to give this a go here, Joey.
Coming out of the gravel pit here, and I think just to talk about the difference between the Pro 2s and the Pro 4s a little bit more, they also have that 6-speed sequential transmission here in iRacing. Those Pro 2s only have that 3-speed, while these Pro 4s have 6 different gears to choose from. So not only do they have that all-wheel drive, the 4-wheel drive to pull them out of the bad situations, but they can also grab whatever gear that they need to.
Yeah, and that's one thing too. You could run in a Pro 4 in real life. You could run a manual, or you could run that sequential like you're talking about. So it's a totally different setup. It all depends on the driver's style. They've gone with the iRacing with the sequential, which is a lot easier to drive than trying to bang gears through there.
Yeah, that is for sure. And honestly, if you really want to in the sim, you can still have an H pattern shifter next to you. But yeah, I know I still roll with flappy paddles myself. But
yes.
Fisher here, not sure what he is running. I didn't quite take a close look on his camera as he really bounces off the ground, though.
The truck setup, we mentioned it in the Pro 2s. It's the same thing here in the Pro 4s. They've got an open setup, and you can't adjust the tires like you can in real life, but it is all down to those shock and spring settings, and the Pro 4 is more violent over those turn 2 whoops. You just have to be careful with them a little bit.
Yeah, we saw earlier this weekend with the Majors World Cup that there were drivers who definitely wound up spinning off course with a bad bounce, but Cole Fisher's mark is a 17.8. I'm pretty sure that's going to be easily beaten. We saw that the fastest times were down to the 1:15s in the Pro 2s. We'll definitely be seeing some 1:14s for the quickest guys out here.
Now, one thing I just wanted to check, can they change the rear ends on these things, the gear ratios?
Yes.
So that could come down too, because depending on the size of the course, if we're going to run a short course Crandon and the short course itself, it's a whole other gear setup usually than the long course is what we say. And every track has its secret sauce, just like in asphalt racing. I'm sure Joey's very familiar with that.
And to jump in here, in terms of adjustments that they have in terms of that drive line, they've got an underdrive ratio and then also that rear end ratio that they can change, basically the final drive in that differential.
Yeah, for the most part, iRacing tries to mimic what the real cars in every single car that they model, what they can do. Like we had touched on earlier, about the only thing they can't really do is try and groove the tires the way that they want. But everything else that you can do in these trucks, you should have a setting, the setting ability here in the sim itself. But Kirchmeier switching engines, though. It looks like he's got a Honda in this thing as he crosses the line and puts down a 16.9, so he is now the top spot.
These Pro 4 trucks, it's kind of fun in the sim. It's kind of the same way with the Pro 2s. I'm sure we're going to see some of these liveries change with the manufacturer. It was fun to see the Honda out there. I wonder what kind of motor the Honda would put in a Pro 4 truck.
Well, I know that they recently just built a trophy truck Honda, and it's going to run that twin-turbo V6. So that's going to be interesting. I'm going to see that debut this weekend in Baja. But for the first time, a Honda was on top of the box, a Honda Talon, that is, in the UTV. Dave Mason Jr. Put it on there for the first time, and he's also one of our Pro 2 drivers. Love to see him get into the sims to do that.
Let's hope it runs more like it's road cars and less like it's Formula One cars. Although their Hondas are better, I will say. But they had a history there for a while. But Grady's the next one up in the 535. Like I said, we've got a 116 and 117. We're anticipating a lot faster lap times eventually. So I don't think we've seen the quickest drivers out here quite yet. But yeah, look at the difference in line. Much earlier here in the gravel pit compared to what we saw with the twos.
The gravel pit is such a cool corner. You can go on YouTube and watch some crazy clips of pretty much reverse entry into the gravel pit. And here in the Pro 4s, that's what you do, is you huck it in and you stand on the gas to drive out of it.
16.7 now, 0.2 quicker than Kirchmeier. And then Matthew Lind immediately follows after as he flies across the timing line in that 003. He wasn't into the dash last time. Can he make up for it this time and somehow put himself up into the top? Well, you have a lot of the same drivers, but I think we have a slightly bigger group, if I remember correctly. What are the numbers like here? We'll check it out.
Just looking at our timing and scoring, Joe, I think we've got about the same, maybe one or two more here in the Pro 4s.
All right, so yeah, pretty close there.
Yep.
But a few more that are going to be taking part is Lind flying across the whoops down to the Potawatomi turn 1 now. Let's see if he can beat that 16.7.
And I like what Joey was saying, you huck it in there. We call it backing it in. back that thing in. Nobody did it like Kyle the Duke, though, in real life. I mean, that thing would literally, that rear end was in front of the front end coming to some of these corners. And just how those Pro 4s just grip, they just back it in and just shoot them right out.
Well, when I was in high school, back that thing up meant something completely different. But the 003, let's see how quickly he tries to whip it down into Calamity Corner as he slides it around very hard into the turn. What's the time going to be with a corner like that? 17.2. This must be a much slower track. I'm very surprised at the times we're seeing.
I think it's still going to continue to come down, and if we remember, Trenton Briley, this driver right here, was the one who set that initial carrot in the Pro 2s. I'd keep an eye on the speed on this one.
Okay, he comes out onto the run towards Cowboys hairpin now. Trenton Briley into a little bit of heat, or no, it was Keaton Swain that they were. We saw the controversy for there on his lap, but Briley was one of the early runners to set a good time himself. Will he again be one of those drivers breaking into the faster laps here? Now, 5th of our qualifiers. Nobody has broken the 1:16 mark. Everybody has been 1:16.7 or slower so far in the 4s, which is still way slower than what we've seen out of the 2s, which should theoretically be the slower class. So here comes the 17 with just 2 more corners to go.
Trenton's got a lot of real life experience. He's raced everything from the karts, the mod karts, to back in the day of the super lights, and then little pro light racing. A lot of experience. Not a lot of experience at Crandon, though, but this young man is a wheel man for sure. Great family, known him for years, and it's great to see him still racing in this capacity. But it's just nuts to see the times not being quicker than the Pro 2s. But I'm going to go back to a Pro 2 just won the Crandon World Cup this last, a week and a half ago there. So it can be done. They're quick.
That's true, yeah. And even in the Majors World Cup, I believe it was 2nd place for the highest Pro 2 out there, 2nd or 3rd, I want to say, that they wound up. So it's that you can hold your own. 16.6 for Briley is the new quickest time, still only a 10th faster than Grady. And Dane Culver is the next one as he brings it down through Cowboys hairpin. He's got that Gravedigger green going on there, Joey.
Yeah, the bright green roll cage, the chassis underneath. I wonder how distracting that would be to drive in real life. But I think with these Pro 4s, something that may happen that we didn't see with the Pro 2s, I think they tear up the track a little bit more. And when that happens, they tend to pick up a little bit speed. So I think that the end of qualifying is going to produce the fastest times here with this class.
Agreed.
Interesting theory. Okay, we'll see if that one comes true. That was a very wide turn there by Culver down into a gravel pit, but as the car clunks to the earth and swings around Calamity Corner, the 51 sets a time, and it's a 16.629. My goodness, they're 8,000ths of a second apart right now, the top 2.
Yeah, I really think that the quicker times, I know Johnson, it'll be interesting to see what he did. He had a good run of the Pro 2s, but, one of these things it comes down to is exactly what Joey said. They tear the track up, they lay more rubber down. I think the track is going to get faster. It didn't look as wet and sloppy as it did for the Pro 2s, but, of course, it's a Pro 2, and that's where you drive them, unfortunately.
So here goes Greg down into the hairpin. Gonna swing it around the banking on the outside to try and use that to keep his speed up and then fly down towards Potawatomi turn 1. They go even faster than what we saw with the Pro 2s, down nearly 100 miles an hour swinging into the turn. And that one didn't look as fast down through the corner, though. He cut down to about 90 miles an hour by the time he hit the apex there. So just 2 more turns to go. Greg Johnson going to try and get his way into the top 8. We've only had 6 qualifiers, so we haven't hit that cutoff line quite yet.
And Dave, I got to ask you specifically about turn 2 here at Crandon. We see a lot of these trucks, they struggle to keep the front end tucked in around that long sweeping left-hander. Do you see maybe a differing line with the speed that you can carry scraping the wall around the outside, or trucks that can maybe hold an inside line?
Yeah, you see that. It's all setting up because those jumps really unsettle you there. So you got to get that truck so it sets right. And that has a lot to do with your suspension setup. because you can't just set it up for like 1 or 2 turns. You got to make it work for everything. So you're going to get that truck unsettled just a little bit, but you got to get back in that line. I think going out on the outside line and coming across through underneath the Ponzi sign, that's where you're probably thinking about probably the fastest.
So it looks like 5th place for Johnson. Wienecke is now on track. We do have suddenly some dramatic news. Edmondson will not be able to qualify due to, I guess we'll call it a clerical error here in the sim. The way that they're running this, you're not allowed to tow the car. And he has towed the car while he sat waiting in line to get his turn to go, which means he will not be allowed to qualify. He will not take part in the dash.
Oh, what a heartbreaker.
It is, and I think I understand the reasoning why. You know, they have them lined up all the way around, halfway around the course here, and if you allow trucks to go out there, it's just putting more miles on the track and potentially an advantage for later.
And they have to stop everybody because they have to get back out on track. So I guess this is something where it's, once you're out there, you need to be sitting and placing the truck out there. You can't remove it from the line if we want to go kind of Indy style and hope to just hop right back in. Cody Wienecke, though, is now our fastest. Wow. So Cody with the top spot by nearly 2/10 over Dane Culver. The 903 has set the marker.
I'm really blown away that we haven't had anybody in the 115s right now. That's what's shocking me. But we still got some fast guys. I thought, you know, for sure that Edmondson would be one of those guys, but Connor, he's already proven himself in the Pro 4 out there in iRacing, you know, but Keaton Swain, that's another one to keep an eye on for sure.
So here comes now the car of Dashlette, who's going to have a bone to pick, no doubt, after the finish of that dash. See if he can get himself into the top 8. Once again, we've got 8 out there, so all he has to do at this point is do better than a 17.8, and then he'll be in there. I'm almost wondering if maybe the track temperatures are having some sort of effect on it. I forgot to check to see what our temps were before. We could have essentially switched days here because we are in a new session in the simulator. So, and it does look like the temperature's at 85 Fahrenheit right now out on the surface.
And to speak on those temperatures as Nicholas Dashlett comes around Calamity Corner here, let's see what he puts down. A 16.2. That's going to be the new P1 time. So Dashlett to the straight to the top. But here in iRacing, Joe, I really feel like those track temperatures, those ambient temperatures kind of dictate the lap time. It tells you if it's going to be fast or slow, and that's just how it is.
Another look at Minder celebrating his victory in the California 300. Let's see what he's got out here. He didn't make it into the dash before, so will he be able to do it in the Pro 4s? Yeah, I have to confess, that's an area where I can read the track pretty well, temperature-wise on the pavement side, but I still don't quite have a full grasp of what the temperatures are going to do on the dirt side, other than maybe evaporate a bit of the moisture a little quicker.
That I can help you with, and that is one thing you're absolutely true. When it's a warm day, a lot of the moisture is going to come out, and you're going to get a lot of that loose, dry dirt on top, which becomes that slick dry that we talk about. Colder the temperature, the track's going to hold together a little bit better, but it might be a little slower, a little thick, is what we'll say. And you're having to push, and with the outside side bite, you're pushing on your tires a lot more. That will slow you down a little bit. I think 85 is actually a really good temperature for the track right now. That's actually pretty much ideal.
We're getting word from some of the drivers out there that it is a little bit slippery, that there's not much grip out there. So maybe that is what's causing the slower times. And it's a 17 flat for Minder. He will bump into 7th. He's awful close to the cut line, though, now that we've got 10 drivers out there. So he's going to be under the gun as Keenan Cusin, the man with the microphone, is now going to take to the track.
That cut line right now is a 117.2 for everybody keeping track on that lap time. And I'm noticing it's not too much here, but as you watch Keenan kind of bounce off of the berm, there is starting to be a slight racing line develop in some of these corners. I'm noticing it more on entry, kind of here into the Cowboy hairpin. You see it going in on entry, not so much coming out there, but here into turn 1, you start to get a little bit more of that sweep off of the racing line.
Keenan's also one of the few international drivers competing in these races, hailing from Canada. He's also joined by Greg Johnson up from the Great White North. Everybody else is from the States here, racing locally. And Cusin going to try and represent the Maple Leaf State here as we come across towards Gravel Pit once again. Down into that 180-degree corner, whipping it off the turn. One more to go. Right now the cutoff is 17.221.
And I think you're right. You know, the trend, they're probably saying it's a little slower because it was a little wet beginning, just like it was for the Pro 2s. But when you get it starting to dry out, and like what Joey just said, you're starting to see that race line develop, the blue groove. And a good run there, 117.721. That's not going to put him above the line, though. That's the problem. And here comes Connor Berry on.
Real shame there for Keenan. Connor up next. Not the fastest driver in the Pro 2s. What about the Pro 4s? As he's well into the lap at this stage, off of the left-hander now, heading down towards Cowboys hairpin. If he can get into the top 4, I think he'll be at least somewhat happy with that. If he can manage to snatch the pole away, he'll be ecstatic as he flies through the left-hander once again and down the back stretch. The number 2 picks up speed. What's it going to look like coming through Potawatomi turn 1?
I noticed through the hairpin, Connor got a little bit more rotation than the previous trucks. I wonder if that grip is starting to come to the front end here for Connor in this number 2 machine as slides through turn 2, but then tucks it back in here. I think this actually should be a pretty fast lap.
It is looking clean to me, but the stopwatch will tell the tale ultimately. Cuts back across, leaving a little bit of space on that second apex there, coming out of gravel pits and then down into Calamity Corner as the truck bounces off the earth. The timing line coming up very quickly for the number 2, 16.246. That is the new pole.
That's right. So one of the things that you really see, love that in-car shot where you can see the wheel like this. You can see when they come in the corner, they'll give a little flick, just to get that truck to start to rotate.
Yeah, Cooper definitely doing that, getting it pretty sideways here and then trying to straighten it off as he exits off the left-hander. So now 8th place is a 17.045 that you have to beat to get into the top spot. 16.247, your quickest time. Very smooth run around Cowboys hairpin for the 873.
To talk about those steering inputs, we mentioned the Pro 4s, you can drive them much more aggressively. They kind of pull you out of situations that you shouldn't be in. However, the fast way to drive these trucks is still smooth. You think, well, wheel spin in a 4-wheel drive, not that big of a deal, but the more you limit it, that's more forward power that you've got.
For sure, and let's see what he's got here. It comes down into Gravel Pit himself. That was very wide there, Dave.
Yeah, I was just watching some of the lines, and throttle control in racing is everything. When it comes to dirt, though, it's one of the most important you're going to have. A lot of drivers, you know, they talk about, you know, like driving with an egg under your foot. You don't want to just mash it down. Here comes Gross, 118. That's going to put him above the cut or below the cut line. So that's going to make it a little difficult there. And fortunately, it's going to end his run into the cup race, or I should say the shootout. But really, when it comes down to it, you got to be very smooth with the throttle, because wheel spin does not give you that forward momentum.
And that really pays to what you guys have been harping on all day, is just being smooth. And the smoothest drivers that we've watched have been up towards the front. In fact, Sean Winkler here is looking pretty decent. Came away with the 3rd place in the Pro 2s and the Dash. Yeah. Does that, I've heard some drivers say that you can use that little berm to speed you up there, Dave. Do you think it's helping?
You're going to take it up there, and that could also be able to bounce it off and go to a lower line there. That's what a lot of the drivers try to do, to cut off that, just hit the apex a little bit quicker. But it could unsettle the truck too and get you in trouble.
It looks like it helped somewhat here for Winkler, because the pace still looks like it is good. Comes over and off the tabletop once again. Still, Connor Berry is your quickest time on the left-hand side of your screen, but he doesn't necessarily have to hit that time. He just has to be in the top 8, so faster than a 17.045 for Sean Winkler, and we saw that he's good off the start. So as long as he's in the show, he's going to make a race out of it. 16.646, that'll do it.
Up into that 6th place position for that number 720 truck, and now we've got Chikuba. She's lining up to get her first lap up and going here over the start-finish line and get it turned into this S section. A little bit off on the entry there. It is so crucial to nail these first couple laps on your qualifying lap, because it kind of sets the pace for the rest of the lap. If you kind of mess it up or get off pace at the beginning, you just can't really ever get it back.
Yeah, and it really throws your rhythm off. Once your rhythm gets a little bumped, like we talked about with Crystal King earlier, you know, she had that issue. One little hiccup could throw off the rest of your race.
Let's see if the 06 will get into the top 8 this time. So far, so good. Down into Potawatomi turn 1 off the apex a little bit. Unfortunately, that'll eat up some time. Needs to get back across. Bad bounce coming into past the barn as well, but is able to get back down to the inside of the corner coming through the turn. Hard to read how this one is going to go, but you can see how much she has been wringing out of this truck, because the front, there's nobody else out there, and she's already got some wrinkles there on the bodywork.
Yeah, she's really saw that wheel.
I think that's from those turn 2 jumps, those whoops. It can be a very violent landing out there, but I'm seeing this track come to us more and more. 120.0 is what she's able to put down. 15th place of the 15 trucks so far.
So that's it for her tonight, unfortunately, but will set her start position for the race tomorrow as the number 21 of Keaton Swain. Now, let's watch Keaton closely here. Obviously, he stirred a few feathers with his lines before in the Pro 2s. What's it going to look like in the 4s?
And here's what you talked about. I'll give you an example. If he's going to come up on the wall a little bit, yep, going to use close to it. But Wild Horse Pass, when you see him come out of turn 1 and they go really wide and ride that wall, we can see that's what all the fast guys do. That's what they're doing here at Crandon. They're trying to use that wall to bank off and kind of get him to redirect.
Also, big shout out to Keenan Cuse and his Raiders, because he sent a lot of his viewers over to watch since he's out of the top 8. So obviously he's done for today, and he's given us a nice gift there. Keaton Swain, who is not getting a good gift. He's blinking. That's his internet connection. Now, the big worry here is if he's gone for too long, sometimes the sim will consider that a deleted lap.
And I don't think he was gone for quite long enough. We'll know as soon as he crosses the start-finish line. This is going to be a heater of lap, and oh, he's blinking more through Calamity Corner here. Let's see if this registers. 116.00. That is your new provisional pole.
Absolutely is. Barry gets bumped down in a second. Crystal King is up next. And you were talking about this, Joey. She has some unfinished business. She probably knows just as well as you about what happened there in Cowboy Hairpin. Let's watch closely to see if she can make up for it.
Coming out of turn 7 here, I think that just the one small mistake in her Pro 2 qualifying run really cost her that spot to race in that dash race. Here it comes, her nemesis, the hairpin.
Goes in a little deep, but that looked a lot better.
Ooh, nice.
So will this make the difference? Her cut line is a 16.710 with Tom Grady being the last one on the bubble. If she gets faster than that, then she'll make the dash, at least for now. But we've got just a few more drivers. I see Irvin and Prater waiting in the wings, and we're hearing that Mason Prater will be the last one. I don't know if Irvin will actually get to take part. We know Edmondson is out, so we won't be seeing him. Crystal now into the last few corners, also hailing from my neck of the woods. I think the only Club Ohio driver that we have here today.
Well, definitely very cool, the Buckeye State, right?
Absolutely. As she's going to come across the line now. What's the time going to be? 16.1.
Wow.
That is actually on to the second spot. You were not kidding there, Joey. She had a lot sitting in the wings.
Yeah, that was a heater from the 278, and I want to, go back in time about 10 minutes. I really feel like this track is starting to get faster, and here we go. Here's Mason Prater. Let's see what he can lay down.
Yeah,
last of the qualifiers. Go ahead. Sorry, Dave.
I'm going to go back to Joe real quick and what he was talking about. When he talked about that berm, did you see how Crystal hit that? The redirected the track, came down low. I think that really paid into her favor. Let's see if Mason's going to do it here a little bit. Nope, he stays off of it. But see how much wider he goes? I think that might have been the key for Crystal King.
I wonder if anybody else is paying attention to that, though, and is going to try and imitate what they've been seeing out of her and other racers here in qualifying to try and pick up a little bit of pace. Prater needs to aim for a 16.647 now. Sean Winkler is the last of our drivers above the cut line. What can he do to try and make sure that he has a little bit more racing this evening and doesn't have to wait for tomorrow to get back onto the track? Oh, once again, going way out to the outside. They're in the gravel pit. The number 50 is using up every inch of track, but is that going to be the slow way in the end as he swings around the final corner and to the timing line? He'll cross and set a 1:17. Oh, that's not good enough.
Just 11th on the board, a few spots out. I think, honestly, Joe, going into the gravel pit, Mason was just way out wide there. I think that's where the time was lost.
So from first down to eighth is actually only 0.6 of a second. So it was very, very close here in our top running in the Pro 4s. And they're going to be switching over pretty soon into the dash race. Just like what you saw before, top 8 will compete for their start position. And the big thing here, one thing that we didn't mention last time, that yes, it will set your qualifying position, except for the pole winner will get to pull for how many cars will regrid. So that is not predetermined. It could be all 8 that regrid. It could be just the top 2 that regrid. We don't know.
Yeah, usually it's a 1 through 6. I mean, very rarely I've seen a whole field, but man, you might as well. It's a land rush. Why not?
Exactly. And here comes the land rush. That inside line off of the final 8th spot here won't get as much of an advantage with the dirt, but still maybe get a little bit of an edge off of there. So we'll see as we wait for the go from the signal from the race control. And don't still have everybody out there, still waiting on Crystal to line up. She'll be the last one of our 8. There it is. So we should see the drivers get the signal from race control here shortly in the simulator. I'll let you know when that message comes up, and it'll be just a few seconds away from starting tonight's dash. There it is. We've been given the signal, our virtual cowboy, if you will, and we await for the lights to come up as the drivers start to rev their engines. And there it is. Green flag is out off the line. Crystal's actually very good. She might have the whole shot. It's going to be close between herself and Keaton Swain. In fact, it's a drag race down into the inside. She's going to be edged out just a little bit. No, Keaton goes wide himself too. Here comes Connor Berry.
Oh my. Go ahead, Dave. This is a mess. This is the land rush right here.
I actually almost had a deja vu moment to Mayan Spaccarelli in Crandon. When you see that big tire, he clipped it, and it pretty much just destroyed the truck. It can get nasty. You can see how nuts that land rush is just from that turn.
Unfortunately, yeah, that was Crystal. They got shoved to the outside of it, and now she falls back to 7th. But up at the front, Swain is having a fight off Berry, who still wants that lead away. Battle for second as well. That is Trenton Briley side by side with Dane Culver.
Yeah, Briley's going to be on the outside. Now he's going to be switched back to the inside, but it is Keaton Swain leading the way. That 4-pack, though, Culver, Briley, Winiecki, and Winkler, they are nose to tail coming out of 7.
Oh, Winiecki's the one that's sharpening his elbows. He absolutely slammed Briley to the side and took that 4th place away. Now what's going to happen down at the Cowboys hairpin where things can get absolutely nuts? Oh, that was actually a little bit more orderly than I expected.
Yeah, normally it's a little nuts there. I mean, these guys know. I think over time they've learned that you can't just, bash into somebody. I mean, door-to-door contact, side-to-side contact, okay. As long as you don't change position of the vehicle. Great shot from Connor going up the inside, and he's leaning on him a little bit, it looks like.
Trying his best, but Swain is going to be able to hold ahead. Might get some overlap here down into gravel pit. Yeah, there you go. Barry down to the inside, trying to run that tighter line, using the four-wheel drive to run off of it. Just doesn't have as much momentum, but he does at least keep a little overlap. Tries to cut back. No, he's covered off. Swain knew that move was coming.
Gave a little bit of a shove to the back end there, was able to push Keaton off of the racing line a little bit, and just like we saw in the Pro 2s, that might be what you need, is just to move somebody off of the racing line, open the door just a crack.
Oh, he keeps trying that over-under move, and every time Swain blocks the apex, but now Culver is there. Oh, gives a little bit of a tip. They got to be careful. Bounding almost onto two wheels there. Culver gathers it back up. He's threatening for second place.
Yeah, Culver dives deep in there, but the momentum's going to be on Barry's side there. But you saw when Culver was trying to go, it gets pushed a little wide. He's just trying to get up there. Just get on that back fender. You just want to just give him a little knock. Know you're there. Get in their head.
And look who...
Connor's tough.
Oh, and we're back with Crystal King, actually. Oh. She's going to get into sixth place past Briley. I was going to say Swain's running away, but we're going to check back in the pack, fighting... Oh, who was that off track? That's Dane Culver.
Yeah, Dane Culver had a hard landing coming out of those whoop jumps of turn 2, and unfortunately, Crandon bit him.
Okay, so back to the back he goes. Crystal King, after being sent to the back, is already into fifth, thanks to Dane Culver having his issue. But yeah, Swain is running off from Barry, although he's having more connection problems. As Crystal King right on board with her, Sean Winkler up in front, and we know he is tough to beat.
Yeah, Winkler's been really quick there, but I'll tell you, King is a whole nother driver. You can tell she's been doing her homework, getting more time on the track, getting more seat time. That's going to make it better, you know. And I'm just, you know, Keaton Swain, though, the net coating that we've seen before, Joe, this ain't our first time we've seen this with him.
Yeah, that's been a story, unfortunately, with his internet connection. Side by side for third behind these two, as Winkler was trying to give a move on Wieniecki. Didn't quite work, and already Crystal is on top of him. We're watching from Keaton Swain's perspective. I think back, Dave, to the race we saw, I think it was in the spring season. Crystal King got shoved around a bit, and she came back, and she pushed her way back. Oh, no! She's on her lid, though!
Oh, no!
Well, that will do it. She went over the fence, and unfortunately that sends you immediately into pit lane here in iRacing, so her race is effectively done.
A shame, but here comes Keaton Swain already on the final lap through Calamity Corner, Joe.
So watching the battle for the lead once again as the checkered flag is out. We were watching the mid-pack so much. Swain takes the win, and Barry will take second. As in third, it'll be Cody Wieniecki, Sean Winkler, a third and a fourth. What an excellent night it's been for him. Briley wound up fifth, Dashalette sixth, and Culver seventh, with King was looking like a good finish and has to settle for eighth in the end. So there is your finishing order, but it will be regrid somewhat once we have the poll a little bit later on for the regrid. I do believe we're going to be talking to a few of the drivers once again. We're waiting on Keaton Swain, I think, to hop on over and have a little bit of a chat with us. Here he comes. It looks like he is getting ready to go, taking another victory, but certainly having to fight for this one, especially with some familiar faces out there. And you can see that wild start that he went through. Keaton, talk about this one, because my goodness, between the start fighting side by side with Crystal and then with Connor, you had your hands full.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't ran these or done a start in a Pro 4 since their latest update, and it was a lot slicker than I was anticipating, so I kind of slid out into Crystal and kind of ruined her race. And I was just trying to fend off Connor, and like I said, I've never driven on a track this slick, so definitely gonna have to put some more time in. Think I got a little bit of speed to find still with these latest updates.
Yeah, it's always one of the tricky things about iRacing is things just getting slightly different. But you had to fend off on Connor pretty much that entire race. In fact, he got to your rear bumper a number of times. Were you kind of aware that he was going to pull those over-under moves and were covering that off?
Yeah, I've raced Connor for a long time. He's got a bunch of different tricks up his sleeve. So I I know some of them, but obviously he's just a really good racer, so he'll know what to do different each time he's on the track. But like I said, I was just trying to fend him off. I knew that it was going to be slick, and I knew a couple of guys behind him were going to be hungry. So I was just hoping that they could get battling, and then I could try and pull away, which kind of did for a little bit. But the draft as well here helps a little bit. So Connor was able to stay right there, and then luckily it's only a 3-lap race, so I was able to hold him off.
Yeah, going to be a little bit longer tomorrow with the two races. Are you more concerned if you get ahead of him and he's that close in those situations?
I think I got some good long race pace. Just going back to World Championships, I really liked our long race pace. So I might have to find something here in earlier stages to try and fend him off if I do get out in front of him. So we'll put in a couple more laps here before the race tomorrow. See if we can figure something out.
All right. Well, we'll look out for you. Again, congratulations winning the dash.
Thank you.
That was Keaton Swain, your winner, and he was followed by Connor Berry. I believe Dave has caught up with second place.
Connor, a great start there, side by side with Keaton Swain as the chaos unfolded behind you. What was going through your mind at that point?
We came around P2, I think, and I saw that the guy in third and fourth, they both hit and they went into the tractor tire. So I knew that me and Swain were good, and then we went into gravel pit, and then we got like stuck out there. So we fell back to third, and we got back to P2. We closed the gap on Swain. And then we got bumped again. So but I mean, for it only being qualifying, I'm pretty pumped because now we'll be starting P4 and Pro 2 and P2 and Pro 4. So I think it's going to be good, but for sure Swain is good. So it's going to be hard.
Yeah, it was actually I'm kind of amazed there. Dane Culver, fairly new to this, is right up there with you guys battling until unfortunately things didn't go well for him. But seeing him go to the inside, you're having a little bit of battle with him as well as having to worry about Keaton. So do you have to go into that chase mode and protect mode? Is it a little tough that way?
Yeah, I think so. I think the biggest thing was I got back to Swain, and then we went through Argonne, and then I got hit by the guy in third. So that gave Swain the gap, and then it's hard to shut it because he qualified first, so
yeah.
He's fast.
Yes, definitely fast. You guys are all fast. It was a great race, and I just have one more question. Keaton said with the updates, with the track conditions, it seemed really slick. The Pro 2s seemed really slick. We're not seeing times that we would expect out of Pro 4s.
Yeah, for sure. Pro 2 was good. Pro 4 was slick, and I honestly, I built a setup, and it was not quite, and it wasn't really it wasn't set for that. So we qualified P3 on the charts, and then I'm glad that we could definitely come back. So I think it's going to be hard, and looks like we got some time. So I need to go back and do some work.
Well, I got to say good luck on that. Hopefully your homework and your notes will make those changes. Connor Berry, P2, congratulations.
And finally, we have Cody Wieniecki in third. Joey has caught up with a man that definitely was getting his elbows out.
Yeah, Cody, congratulations on the third place finish in that dash race.
Oh yeah, I'm still shaken up about this one. There's a tough group of cars out there, and they're all pushing their limit.
Well, you had a very busy race. It seemed like really in turns 1 and 2, you were swamped, probably the 5th or 6th car coming out of turn 2. And then you had to really race your way back up to the front. How was it for you?
Oh yeah, I knew as long as I didn't crash on the starts. I had lifted a little bit to let 2 drivers go, so we were 3 wide off the start, and I wasn't having it. I was like, all right, I'll catch you guys later. And got around those cars, and then I seen another car fly off the track in front of me, and I was like, all right, all I have to do is keep my lines and stay in front of Sean. He's really good, and he had me floored all the way to the end.
Well, and talk to me a little bit too about being a privateer against these big teams, because it seems like you were having to play a little bit of defense out there. How much practice time are you able to get versus having 5 or 6 teammates out there to compare against?
I don't really practice. I just show up for the races. I got a newborn baby and a fiance, so I just got to thank them for allowing me to come out here and compete.
Well, I think what you're doing, it makes it even that much more impressive to go up there and get these 3rd places, race against Connor Berry, Keaton Swain, and the whatnot. So first of all, congratulations on the new baby over there, and congratulations one more time on this 3rd place.
Oh, thank you so much. I'd just like to thank MFR Racing. He's the one who, Timothy Messmer, he got me set up for tonight's race and shot me a tune over real quick. And I'd like to thank my fiance for letting me do this, my whole family for watching the stream, and thank you guys for putting on a good show for us.
Well, that was Cody Winiecki, driver of the 903, coming home 3rd today in the dash race for the Pro 4s.
Which wraps up the racing for tonight. But as I said, we're not over. And remember, we will be back tomorrow night. But Dave, what are the drivers taking out of this? What do you think they're grabbing onto and saying, all right, I got to do this and that to prepare for tomorrow?
And what I think Connor said is the setup. He said his setup was off just a little bit. To see him run with Keaton Swain the way he did was pretty impressive. But I think every driver is going to have to go readdress that. You know, how their suspension is set up, tire pressures, and also gear ratios.
And Joey, I'm so looking forward to this. You and I have often talked about this is one of our favorite styles of racing on iRacing. So tomorrow is going to be a hoot.
We call them the jumpy trucks over here. And yeah, they are so much fun. And especially the big house, Crandon, what's better than calling them? But I want to touch on something that Dave said. You can't second guess your setup too much, because remember, tomorrow is a whole new day. It could be the same as today, or it could be different.
Yeah, that's a good point. Adaptability is key for racing drivers. But we're going to have to wrap this up ourselves. So a big thank you for tuning in. Join us tomorrow night, September 14th at 9 p.m. Eastern for the big show. Big thank you to all the organizers at the iRacing Short Course Series. And, of course, a huge thanks to our team tonight, Joey, Dave, Ryan, Cam, and Dougie. Also, none of this is possible without those behind the scenes at Podium Esports, Ryan Bauer, Gary Sexton, and Sean Theodore. Thank you so much for watching tonight's broadcast of the iRacing Short Course World Cup. I'm Joe Peak. I'll see you on the track.